How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Slasher.com. This is from 2017, directed by Chip Gubera. The movie stars Ben Kaplan, Morgan Carter, and Rebecca Crowley. But we also have, as the heads of the family in this movie, some classic horror actors. We have Shepard, who you may remember from Return of the Living Dead, and we also have R.A. Mihailoff, who was Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw 3. Always cool to see some familiar faces. But all that aside, the first thing I do want to address with this movie is the title. Slasher.com? That's actually a really terrible title for this movie. It's not an internet tech horror movie. Basically, the couple meets through a dating app and then they decide to rent a cabin through the internet, but that's about all the tech that's in this movie. After that, it's basically a classic backwoods family slasher, and even then, it's not even much of a slasher because they're chasing around just one guy, so there's not like a high body count in this movie. So yeah, not really a slasher and not really a .com. So you're gonna have to kind of put that aside when you get into this thing. All that being said though, this is a pretty standard crazy family captures you, you try to get away, you run through the forest. There's not terribly much new or original or surprising. I mean, when you do this sort of like backwoods family horror movie, the classic trope started back with Chainsaw Massacre. You're supposed to really like unnerve me, make me wince, make me go, wow, it would be terrible to be stuck in this situation. But really, all this movie ever gets to is every now and then going, okay, that's kind of gross. Like, it's not super hardcore. It doesn't really push the limits, but that being said, it's still serviceable. If you want to see a guy getting chased through the woods by R.A. Mihailoff, you know, it works well enough, but it's not super spectacular. Like, it always kind of feels a little cheap and a little awkward, and I mean, part of the awkwardness, I mean, you have a first date, and you also have like an awkward family. I get that part of that is supposed to be there, but I don't think the whole thing is supposed to be that way. And then like you'll get, say, an action sequence, and the action sequence is constantly interrupted by insert close-up shots because you can tell they're trying to hide a bit of stiff choreography, and then that cheesy stock music that plays every time anything exciting happens. Yeah, this movie's not super well put together, but it's, again, not terrible. I was watching it and I was like, okay, this is pretty low budget, pretty underwhelming, and pretty formulaic, but it in general kept my attention the whole movie, and it is fun enough. But yeah, I wouldn't go in with too high expectations, and I don't know why. I guess some dumb part of my brain saw the title Slasher.com and was expecting something much better for some reason. I don't know why. Cheap little movie, but okay enough to have fun with, just don't expect the world out of it. Now, all that being said, I do want to break down and analyze the movie a little bit further, so I'll be talking a bit about the plot, but I'll be very vague around the end and I'll try not to ruin anything major, but from here on out, let's take a bit of a deeper dive. We open up with a bit of a montage, and they talk about how there's a serial killer that's picking off women using a dating app, but they can't figure out where he is because he uses a VPN and he's very tech savvy. And even though they make this like the opening of the movie, they don't really reference it too much in the coming scenes. It almost feels like a justification for the Slasher.com title, but it's kind of shocking how little this was referenced, despite the fact that the main couple here are meeting through a dating app. But yeah, after this, we get our main guy, and he's kind of a shy, dorky guy, but he's managed to get a date through one of the websites. She shows up, and they have a bit of a kind of awkward conversation as the two have never really seen each other in real life. But they're going on a bit of a big first step date. It was her idea, and she says, I want to rent a cabin in the middle of nowhere and have a nice wilderness retreat with you where we can really get away from everything. Yeah, some guy you don't really know too well, and you just want to go deep into the forest alone with him, and plus you have a one-room tiny cabin with one bed. You better really hope you click with this guy, despite the fact that there's supposed to be a serial killer out there as well. Yeah, this setup is a little bit of a stretch, but whatever. They go into the country and they go to the Myers cabins. Yeah, the family that's renting out these cabins literally has the last name of Myers. One of the more obvious horror Easter eggs I've seen in a while, but whatever. We're introduced to the Myers family. The biggest personality, of course, will be Mama Myers. She makes all the guests call her Mama, and she portrays this sort of loving side to her, and then will kind of force you to do things, you know, like, oh hey, I made you this food, eat it out of my special spoon, and then she'll kind of like shove it in your mouth, and boy, they get some mileage out of the whole spoon thing with her. After that, you have her loyal husband, R.A. Mihailoff, and he's a big country guy, and is effortlessly intimidating. And of course, you have their daughter, who appears to instantly have an attraction for the guy staying at their cabin. Well, they get to the cabin, again, little place in the middle of nowhere, and honestly, not much to do. There's a few little trails, there's a pond you can swim in, and then I guess just hang out at the cabin, I guess. Yeah, there's not really much here. It's literally the middle of nowhere, but if there's not much for them to do, there's not much for the movie to do, so we better get into the horror stuff pretty quick. The couple's kidnapped in the middle of the night, they wake up tied to chairs, and the Myers family is talking loud and excitedly about how they're going to kill them. Cue the main guy barely getting away, and now he's running through the forest, getting chased by this family, and will have a few wacky encounters with each of them individually. And overall, it's okay. As I said earlier, the action can get kind of clunky, and as far as it being a slasher, only having one guy there, yeah, if he dies, the movie's pretty much over, so don't really expect too many spectacular kills because literally we don't have any red shirts in this movie. What are we supposed to do? It's fun enough to run around in the woods getting chased by R.A. Mihailoff, but again, there's just not really much going on. There's not much here. Although, that being said, and this is where I'm going to have to talk about it pretty vaguely, there is a plot point that comes in very, very late in the movie that does serve to shake things up a fair bit. It makes things a lot more interesting, although that being said, it was not set up like at all. It kind of comes out of nowhere, and it doesn't really feel like that's what we were doing before then. But at least now we're actually doing something new and different, so a decent idea, but not set up or executed really well, and I wish they had pulled it more into the rest of the movie. Yeah, an interesting but clunky idea to kind of round things out. So overall, Slasher.com really isn't a .com movie. It's a pretty generic backwoods family chases one guy through the woods movie. It feels pretty cheap, it feels awkward and clunky, but it's not anything I can get too mad at. If you guys like this type of movie, if you like the whole backwoods family trope, this has it, and it does it in a passable variety. Not a strong recommendation, but if you're this movie's audience and you want a lazy Saturday afternoon movie, it's passable, but not really much more than passable. Whatever though. It is what it is, not my strongest recommendation or anything. Anyway though, all that being said, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my slasher movies playlist. If you guys want to see me talk about more movies kind of like this, click right here and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.